Welcome back to the LED Project podcast. This is episode number 137, and it will be the final episode of 2018. My name's
What
Kyle
it
Krieger.
do?
My name's Kyle Krieger. Man, thank you so much. I'm kind of overwhelmed right now. Wilkie and I. Will is here. Will, what's good?
What up? What up? What up? What up? Excited.
This is just our episode where we kind of recap our year, not only with the podcast, but through Lighthouse Educator Development. And we were just talking about things we got to do. We got to make sure people know we talk more about on the podcast that we're actually the LED Project podcast is not who we are. We are Lighthouse Educator Development, and the LED Project is everything we do through Lighthouse Educator Development, and I don't think we've ever really articulated that.
Yeah. But yeah, man.
Do you remember how long we tried to come up with a name for the podcast before we just decided on that?
Yeah, because we kept trying to make it something that it wasn't. I think because what it started out as, again, the podcast came to birth just as Lighthouse Educator Development came to birth through a conversation with us. And I think that when we were trying to brand it something other than what it was, that is, we started a conversation and we decided to include other people and to broaden the spectrum of who we reach with that conversation, which I think is should be the goal and desire of every educator. I feel so privileged to be back in the classroom now, feeling as if I have 88 different mentors that I can go back and draw knowledge from based on the people that we've interviewed on the podcast. And to go back and to listen to some of those episodes and hear some of the words of wisdom that people have said. I mean, those type of things really help you when you're trying to develop and become a better educator. So I think, like I said, we were playing with names, but it really that's what it was. I mean, it's the LED Project podcast.
So, on this episode, we want to do what teachers should do is just be reflective on our practice of not just the podcast, but Lighthouse Educator Development. So just the stats of, some of the things we've done this year, especially through the podcast. We set a goal for 52 episodes, and we said we're going to do 26 interviews in those 52. We did 121 episodes.
Crushing it.
And we had 88 guests.
Crushing it.
So that is overwhelmingly the good.
Crushing it. But to look at that number right there, we're both big fans of Gary Vee, and when you set a goal and a target and a mark, it's like, this is something that we even as educators try to teach kids in the classroom. When you hit that mark and you crush it, man, acknowledge it. I told my kids the other day, I say, I swing hard with every time I go up to the bat. I'm like Babe Ruth. I'm going to swing hard every time. If I'm going to hit big, I'm going to. And I think that we set a goal that we thought was big and we crushed it.
Yeah.
We crushed it. We swung with everything we got and we crushed it. And I think that is in itself a testament to when you purposely and intentionally set a goal and you go out there focused and go get it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I salute you for your idea to have this conversation and to take it mainstream, man, because we wouldn't be here if you wouldn't have convinced me. That's not my generation to sit and have a conversation like that, but you turned me on to it. And like I say, now seeing 121 episodes later, we can see that there's a big benefit in that.
Yeah. And we went from 255 downloads last year in 2017 to over 38,000 this year, which is just
crushing it,
crazy. And we want to come back in a few minutes and talk about the relationships we built just through that and where we see ourselves. But I do want to start with where we fell short this year, because there were a few concrete places that we for sure fell short, starting with LEA. So
I think LEA was, man, it was one of those things. I think it was ahead of its time for what we were trying to do, and I mean that's just a reality. I really believe it's. Do I think there's a need for it? Absolutely, 100%. I stand behind it. When we launched it, did it meet what it needed? No. Does it mean it's bad? No. It just means that we need to go back and rethink of it. You know, we've talked about it before, that trying to find a university partnership
Mm-hmm.
is a big deal, because I think getting those pre-service teachers before they go into the classroom and providing them with that real relevant type of experience and expertise on what to expect, especially a lot of the teachers who are coming from the Midwest, who are coming from the North into these urban, you know, what I call now the urban suburban environments, and teaching them how to build relationships with those difficult students, and how to you know, build it, leverage it, and maintain it, and make it fruitful for everybody. So
Yeah.
it flopped. I mean, it flopped. I mean, we had what, four people sign up, and despite our efforts to connect, it just didn't work. And I think, like I say, you know, my whole thing about everything like that is that everything happens for a reason. And I just believe that that was one of the ones that was like, hey, it's not time for it yet.
Yeah, you know, and just to clarify, when we refer to LEA, we're talking about what we've called or what we developed as the Lighthouse Educator Academy, and it is as true to us as the podcast is, because it was started. I mean, the idea for it and building it has been going for as long as we've been having this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea behind it was to create a teacher mentoring program for new teachers that gave every teacher the same great mentorship experience.
Right.
Because we had discussed this at length between the two of us and on the podcast, that our teacher mentorship experience as new teachers and even going through was polar opposite ends of the spectrum. And we know that there are variations of good and bad in between, but we really wanted to build this and just say, hey, like, you know, and me being the dreamer, I was like, as soon as we built it, I was like, we can find a school, we can find partners, and we kicked tires and we pounded pavement and we got after it as much as we could to find schools to partner with. And then we were like, well, let's just launch it online. You know, we believe in it. And I'm really proud of the fact that, I mean, and this is the same thing as it goes with the podcast. Like, the fact that we're still as bullish on LEA as we are is almost as the same as how bullish we were on the podcast starting this year, after we had a year where, I mean, we didn't see a lot of traction or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's still something we believe in. It's a need, but like you said, it's one of those things that is beyond the scope of really what we can do ourselves. We need a partner, you know, whether it, like you said, a university partner to work with pre-service teachers. And then we'll still be looking, you know, for schools or districts that are saying, hey, like, our mentorship program's not working.
Right.
And it has now transitioned. But I love that you say this to me all the time. Just because what you know, we built it thinking it was this, but how many of those steps are now going to be in what we're calling level up?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
But you
that.
know, I think when you look at it though, but it's one of those situations where you have to look at, again, the divine timing, and the understanding that when we push towards something 100%, it happens. We didn't really push toward LEA 100%. We
Right.
really didn't get behind it. We did move, and you know, I had conversations with people. You had conversations with people. We decided to launch it online. I mean, it flopped because of a lack of engagement with it, not because the system was flawed. And so I think reassessing it and moving forward, it's just a matter of looking at it and saying, okay, now how do we incorporate this in what we do and make sure that this is something that we're putting out to people? Should great mentorship cost districts anything? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Our kids deserve to have teachers who sit in the classroom, who understand what it is they're going through and how to connect with them on their level, who've been trained in having those conversations. Because if you're not used to confrontation and you're put in a classroom that's confrontational, you don't know how to take that energy that's there and wrap it up and then push it back out to the individual so that they can realize that it is a transfer, it is a going back and forth, and without the negative going back and forth. You know, when you don't have control of the energy, things are just kind of going all over the place. You start raising your voice, you start yelling at kids. But teaching teachers how to go into a classroom and kind of harness their energy. One thing that Mr. Pruitt, my principal now, um, he says you have to have a presence in your classroom. Like, you have to walk into your classroom, your students have to know, I'm here to teach you. I'm here to educate you. I'm here to guide you. I'm here to mentor you. You have to have that presence. And when you don't have a crop of teachers who are being trained in these areas, so you get teachers who burn out fast because they're tired of having to argue and do all these different things. So, like I say, I believe in LEA 100%.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think we
for sure.
and I think the flop was, again, there was not enough engagement with it on our part. But I think that lack of engagement was because it just wasn't time. The fruit wasn't ripe yet. You know, we tried to knock it off the tree and it really wasn't ready to come off. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like I say, I think that it's just one of those situations where we'll repackage and we'll come back in with greater ideas. I know as I move closer into the dissertation process, it's providing me opportunities to engage with more of the theoretical side of mentorship and leading teachers and also building relationships. So, like I say, I think that that's really where we are. And I think, like I say, it was a timing. It wasn't a blown shot. It was just, the shot was made, the target was not there. That's what I'm thinking. You know, like,
Mm-hmm.
the shot was there. If the target was there, we would have hit it, but it just wasn't time. So
Aiming. Yeah. Gosh, I think
hold
we
that thought real quick, because I need to check this real quick. So
yeah.
this is about to go off, so I'm gonna stop it beforehand. Hold
Yeah,
on.
got you.
Gotta get the cake. I gotta get the cake and bake the cake like I was patty cake, but no patty cake. It's the trade day, trade dizzle for shizzle off the hizzle. Dropping knowledge on these balls, and you know the dizzle. Yeah, 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 yeah. Man, sorry about that.
No,
It's
you
not quite
good. Mr.
all
Bo
right.
Mr. Bo better gotta cook them cake.
Yeah, so
So yeah.
all right.
And like you said, I don't remember who was I remember it being at AIE. It was in one of the keynotes where they talked about the Olympian shooter who was like about to win a gold medal and like put a perfect shot on the wrong target and got disqualified or lost or whatever it was. And I think that's just a matter of yeah, like you said, it just I, I believe in it. I think it's a program that has legs and it will have legs when it is the right time to. So speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about our two sessions that are new for 2019 that we're excited about and we're looking to take on the road, share with schools, and share with teachers, starting with Level Up Relationships.
Yeah, man. Oh man, that's been my hallmark since I've gotten into education. I didn't come in knowing all the pedagogical words to use and all the theorists, and I wasn't, I did not have that. All I had was my ability to connect. Like I say, I'm a sociologist by craft. I study people and the inner workings of groups, and I transferred that knowledge into my teaching. And I found that the most success that you have in a classroom is when you learn how to build relationships. And I think that that is where a lot of preparedness programs are not. They're so focused on how you're going to present a rigorous lesson plan, or how you're going to prepare students for an assessment, or how you're going to handle this situation, when really it should be, do you know yourself? Now, how would you wrap yourself up and present yourself to somebody that you really want to get into a long-lasting relationship with? You know what I mean? You have to take the gloves off, so to speak, and say, let me be brutally honest with myself and say, do I even want to be my friend? And as an educator, that's something we have to be aware of, because if I bring in my insecurities in the classrooms, I can't expect on a solid relationship with a student who themselves may be on a shaky ground with themselves. So now you got two shaky structures that really, if you sure yours up, then at least they'll have something to lean on to until they get theirs together. So I think that to me, leveling up, building that relationship, sustaining that relationship, and then leveraging that relationship so students can have the greatest impact in their lives. I think that's how we all learn. You love hunting right now, because that's something that your dad instilled in you, and you did it together, and that was part of what you do. And so for you, that was part of that connection. And I'm sure that when we get little K Jr. later on, that will be the same thing instilled in him. And so that's what we learn from. Our parents are our first teachers. And how do they teach us? By building a relationship with them, establish who they, it's mommy, it's daddy, establishing those clear roles, caretaker, comforter, nurturer. I'm your source of food. We building relationships, and that teaches us different things. It teaches us who to depend on, who we can count on, who's going to be there for us, who to call on. And that's the same thing as teachers we have to do. We have to go back to the basics as it relates to how we build relationships with students. That is paramount. And I will speak that until I have no voice left, because I think that is the one missing link between good teachers and amazing teachers. We got a lot of good teachers, but not everybody has the courage to search themselves to become amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the point too, is that the difference between good and amazing isn't extrinsic, it's intrinsic.
Absolutely.
And to your point, and this is something we talked about, with our podcast, and the greatest example was like, I can trace our history back to that. Like when we met, I was a shaky structure, but you were pretty solid. And there was a long time where I leaned on you. And then as I, solidified myself, then I was there to support you, and it became this reciprocal relationship, and we've sustained that now going on 6 years. But the leverage piece is the unsung piece, because I could, we were talking about, in the things we were so happy with and blessed and proud of this year was the relationships we've built across education.
Oh man.
And we can trace so many of those relationships back to one person, Tasha Wright.
Yeah.
Because when we were just getting started interviewing people, like it was a really big step for us to just reach out.
Mm-hmm.
But we reached out to her, had a great conversation with her. And from there, we were able to connect with some of the presenters that Teach Your Heart Out. And then we got the invitation, like, hey, we would love for you guys to come out to, did the Bahamas thing come first, or did the Vegas thing come first?
Bahamas came first. And then Vegas was en route. So we were like, hey, we'll go to Vegas. And so
yeah, so they reached out to us and asked us to be a part of a group of teachers who are promoting and teaching and training and being a big part of their cruise, which is coming up in June of 2019. Yes. And we said from there, we were like, hey, we would really love to connect with you sooner than that. So we went out to Vegas, and we didn't present. We weren't on the bill, but we just went and we did what we do, and we built relationships. And, from there, I think this is going to go out after, but I will have just been at the first Pep Talk
Yeah,
series event in Atlanta.
that's gonna be awesome.
It's going to be great.
With Mr. D.
With Mr. D, with Michael Jr., Keelan Allen from the Ellen Show will be there.
Yeah.
Miss Inappropriate and Gary Brooks.
Wow.
You know, and they actually, I'm going to have been a part of it in some way, shape, or form. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but I mean, looking at that, we will for sure be in the both of us. Like I'm going to Atlanta this first time because you're going to be in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
We will both be probably, they're having another Pep Talk series in San Francisco in March, which we probably or possibly would be at. We'll for sure be in Atlanta with the first Teacher Heart Out at the end of March. We'll be on the cruise in the Bahamas, and we'll for sure be in San Antonio for the last Teacher Heart Out of the year. Plus there are 2 more Pep Talk series throughout the year. I mean, so we're going to be traveling 6 or 7 times just with those people.
Yeah.
And
hold that thought real quick. Pause. Yeah. Okay. Yellow.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
So, you know, with just that relationship, and the thing for me that I want to clarify to people, it's not the fact that we're a part of that event. It's all of the people who we now have a chance to build relationships with and to be able to grow our impact. Because I mean, without that,
Well, I mean, I think it's just it's like, it's like your brain. Every time you engage with something and it's a challenge, you grow a dendrite. So there's a different synapse that's firing this way. So there's a new growth here. Different synapses firing, and I think the more places we put us in the position to be where we want to be, which is influencing teachers and impacting the lives of students all over this country and all over the world, then that is what we're celebrating, is the opportunities to be in front of more educators, the opportunity to connect and build relationships with more people in order to push the message that we're saying is, hey, look, guys, the most important thing in your classroom is not your pedagogy. The most important thing in your classroom is not the content you're teaching. I mean, it's not your the assessments that you're preparing them for. It's, can you build a solid relationship so that student can trust you with their learning? That is the challenge of any teacher. Can I get this kid to trust me? And some of those challenges are not, they're easy in some places. Their students already come to school preparing to trust a teacher or preparing to do this. Then there's those challenging situations where students have been deceived and they've been abandoned. They feel like they haven't had that emotional tie. So their natural instinct is to kind of push back, and they test you to see if are you really truly who you say you are. You know what I mean? Like that's some environments that teachers have. Now I'll get right when I know you're gonna be right. When I know you're gonna be here, then I'll do right. And that's some of the environments that our teachers are in, and they're not. A lot of teachers are not equipped to deal with how do you build a relationship in that type of environment, or how do you get students to trust you, to believe you? How do you find it within yourself to look at yourself and trust yourself? You know, that's a big thing. Do I trust myself with what I'm doing? Am I investing in myself?
You know, and that was, we would both say that's been a challenge, you know, when you take the leap to start a nonprofit. And it's been a challenge with the podcast, like, to trust yourself when you have those moments of like, am I really, you know, the person that should be out here talking? Am I really the person that should be having these conversations? But the feedback we've gotten from those people and the number of people who, whether they're people we interview or people that have reached out to us that have just said, you know what, I had an Hal Bowman, the episode will come out after this one, but he was just like, the thing I love about that is you're genuinely out there just having conversations with teachers. And I feel like what we've done with the podcast that makes me most proud is we've done our part to try to shift the narrative. We're doing our part to try to bring to the public what teachers really do, what their stories really are, and you know, show that there's teachers doing great things everywhere.
But it also is to show other teachers that when I'm in my situation, or I have a day where I'm in my feelings, I can know I'm not alone. I can know that there are people out here who connected with me. You know, there are people out here who's willing to connect. You know, was on a podcast with Chip Baker, and you know, after we were on the podcast, he shared a list of like 40 different people who are ready to connect with educators to come out and speak to schools for free. You know what I mean? So, and this is just from the power of sitting and having a conversation with somebody. But again, it goes to say, in this world of social media where we're so connected with so many people, we're so disconnected from so many people because we don't stop to have conversations. We emote our lives, you know, instead of talking with people and having these conversations to really kind of get them to see where are you? Where are you within your teaching evolution? Where am I, and how do I see myself in either where you are or that's where I was? You know what I mean? And because it kind of helps you navigate the waters. It's like somebody giving you a roadmap to success. And all these podcasts together, it's like you got to kind of piece the puzzle together to see that this one's talking about diversity in the classroom. This one's talking about having an inclusionary atmosphere. This one's talking about how to work with special education students and see their abilities. You know, this is talking about the power of tutoring and getting that after school support. All of these things coming together as an educator helps me to see what do I need to put in place for myself? What limits do I need to push and barriers do I need to push for myself to really be the best for my students? Who could I connect my students to help them when they're having a struggling situation? Like there's so many little positive gains that comes out of just simply having a conversation.
You know, it reminds me of what Amanda Tooley said to me the other day when I was having a conversation with her, and we shared this with Charnay, was like, you know, kids need books that are a window, a mirror, and a sliding glass door. I mean, and I feel like that's a great reference for what we want the podcast to be too, is like, we want you to be able to see other teachers and connect with teachers that may not be having your experience. We want teachers who you can see reflected in what you do. And then we also want to be able to provide, you know, a space. And I think that's what we do when we connect with people and connect them with other people, is that sliding glass door to where we can now have a shared experience. Because although we're going through a shared experience, you know, of teaching, our shared experiences can be so different, but then there's common threads through, you know, most people's experience. So I think that's the part that we're excited. And gosh, we got off tangent on, but this is why we're so excited for Leveling Up Relationships, because this is really what it's born out of. That because to a person, man, woman, every person we've talked to has to a T stressed the importance, not just the importance, but that the relationship is the bedrock. Like it's square one. Absolutely. When it comes to being a successful educator. And it's not, and you know, you said this too, like, and if you don't have the relationships, you're missing out of what is probably the best part of being a teacher. Is having those relationships with kids and having those moments where you see them 5-10 years down the road or whatever it is. I mean, gosh, it's hard to beat those.
Man, that to me, those are the golden moments. There's $1 million moments that just, when I run into students or students come find me and say, I've been looking for you, Mr. Law. I've been wanting to have a conversation with you. I want to thank you for blah, 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 blah. Those are moments that, man, it makes my heart just melt, man. Like, even, at church yesterday, we were walking out and there was a student who's not one of my students, but he's a student at Jones Middle School, and he saw me and he walked over to me and was just like, "Hey, Mr. Law." And I was like, "Hey, man, what's going on?" And my wife was like, "Is he one of yours?" I said, "Yeah, he's one of the students at Jones." She goes, "No, is he in your classroom?" I was like, "No, he's not in my classroom, but I see him in the hallway all the time. We talk." And, and she was like, "That is the perfect thing for you because that's what you love to do." And, for me, it's like, that is me. I love to have, there is nothing greater than connecting. I love that old proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, take someone with you. And I think that when you look at us as educators, is I'm not trying to get there in a hurry, because we know this is a marathon, sometimes like a steeplechase. Cross country, it's an Ironman sometimes, you got to get wet.
Yeah, the adventure, Tough Mudder adventure racing.
Right. It's all of that wrapped up into one. So to say that I'm going to do this thing the fastest by myself, that's not my objective. My objective is, can I push this to the limit with everybody that's with me? You talking about squad goals. I want my squad goals to be, we all cross this thing together. We all cross this thing finishing. We all get across the students. We all grab students, captivate them, motivate them, inspire them, educate them, tutor them, mentor them, make them who they're meant to be, not who I want them to be. My rule in my classroom, I don't care if, I told kids, I don't care if you stand up in my room, as long as you're not blocking somebody else's view and you're not being a distraction. If sitting down irritates you, then stand up. Stand up. That's not going to bother me. If you need to be in a seat where you can be off to the side so you can stand up, that does not bother me. And being even just that, to say, man, one kid wanted to sit on the floor. It's not going to bother me. You know what I mean? It's like, whatever it's going to be to make you feel comfortable. You have to get to that point as an educator where we're in a relationship. If you and I are in a relationship and you're coming over for dinner, and I know you love steaks, and if I'm preparing dinner for you and I know you love steaks, then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out and find me some nice T-bones, some nice sirloin, and I'm going to say, I'm going to cook my guy some steaks because my man's coming over. You know what I mean? I know what you like, so I'm going to give it to you. When you do that with your students and you become hospitable in your classroom to accommodate your students, guess what? They're going to do the same thing for you. They're going to walk in and give you treats. They're going to walk in preparing for you like you prepare for them.
I have wanted to be able to give a Roadhouse reference the entire time we've been doing the podcast. R.I.P. Patrick Swayze. But, it reminds me of the scene in Roadhouse where he's taking over the bar that's like just notorious for fights and drugs and all those things. And he's like, the number one rule is be nice. If someone throws a drink in your face, be nice. If someone cusses you out, be nice. If you have to walk someone out, be nice. And it's just that simple, like it shouldn't be understated.
Right.
But so
okay to be a good person.
Yeah. So our first professional development, which we're developing into it's 3 separate sessions, right?
Mm-hmm.
3 sessions. It's called Leveling Up Your Relationships. And the second one we're really excited about is Podcasts as Projects, which is just an expanded version of what we presented at AIE in San Antonio. So what do you think the teachers can get out of Podcasts as Projects?
Well, I mean, the same thing we've been talking about, that what can be gained from a conversation? What can be gained from a conversation? There's an extreme power that you gain in having a conversation with somebody, because now what you're forced to do is to honor their voice, and they're forced to honor your voice. And when you have that situation where someone knows that I have a say in what I'm doing and what I'm learning and how I'm learning it, then that opens the door up to it frees up a lot of the other things that you would be dealing with in the classroom, because now you're giving students an outlet. You know, I tell my students all the time, it's okay to tell me that I suck. Please tell me that if I've sucked. If I suck, then don't just yell out in the classroom and tell me I'm stuck. Write it on a Post-it note. Write it on an index card. Give it to me. And let me know, Mr. Law. So that way it forces me to reflect and say, okay, what made this suck for this one student? Because I think it's important that we understand that, and we have to get to that. And so when you start thinking about what podcasts do, podcast gives you an opportunity to have a conversation with somebody that's non-threatening. You can talk. We've talked about some very tough tough conversations with people, you know, where we've had. I mean, I think about, you know, our first recording with Juan Gonzalez, you know, where it got pretty emotional. Hold on just a moment. Hold on. Bro, we might have to pause this and come back to it because I got to go meet this guy at noon and I just burnt my cake. God dog it. So
all right, man.
We just have to pause this because I got to, we'll pause this one and we can pick this back up. When are you available on Wednesday? After the day after Christmas?
Yeah, I should be able to find some time.
Okay, so let's plan to do that because I got to get out of here to go meet this guy up in Porter. And so, and now I got to go buy more material to make another cake. So,
oh man, I feel bad. I'm sorry you burnt your cake, man.
I got caught up in the conversation and I didn't reset my timer when I did it. So, no biggie. All right, man. Let me get off here.
All right, brother. Well, hey, tell the fam Merry Christmas from me, and
Same thing, man.
Get at you later on.
All right, Merry Christmas. Tell the same thing to your family.
All right, talk to you soon.